Most people think they have money problems. They think they have a need for better tools, better budgeting, better discipline, better financial advice, more income. But the truth is, most money problems are authority problems. They're not math problems. Your money problems come from who you trust, who you defer to, who you decide what's safe, what's responsible, and what's possible for you. And if you don't see that clearly, you can make all the right moves on paper, but you still feel stuck. You still feel anxious. You still feel behind when it comes to money. My work is about helping people to understand the financial systems that are operating on them and to regain agency. This week, we started out looking at religious systems and how they control how we think. We also looked at modern systems and their influence on shaping our thinking patterns. Today, we're applying that to finance and money. This is not about hustling. This is not about getting rich. This is not about motivation. This is about understanding the system, the dynamics, the games that you're playing, and helping you choose which games you play and how you play them. We're told that financial systems are neutral. We're told that the banks are neutral, tax systems are neutral, employers are neutral, and credit scores are neutral. We're told that's just how it works. When you hear the phrase, that's just how it works, it means that authority has been established and accepted. So if you say this is how it works, you are accepting that this is the authority that is going to apply in your life. In truth, financial systems are designed to shape behavior. They're built to reward predictability, they're built to reward compliance and stability. On the flip side, they will penalize experimentation, deviation, uncertainty, and the irregular paths that an ordinary human being will take. This doesn't make these systems evil, it just makes them directional. They're giving direction to all of us. Now, it's important for you to make the distinction. It's not about good versus evil. Financial systems are built to help us as a society to govern our behavior, to design our behavior, to shape our behavior in a certain way that will bring out certain outcomes. Your role is not to internalize those dynamics. When you look at outcomes in your life and look at them as moral failures in yourself, you're now internalizing system outcomes instead of seeing the system's design operating in your life. Let's start with authority, right? How does financial authority show up in our lives? It shows up very quietly in numbers, in scores, in best practices, and in spreadsheets that feel objective. Now, a credit score is not going to argue with you. The tax system doesn't care about how you feel, and bank rejection doesn't explain itself to you. And because it's technical, we do not question it. The moment something is just how it works, it means an authority has acted upon you and you have accepted it. At that point, you're no longer choosing the game you're playing, you're complying to someone else's game. And the trap here is that we do not see these shifts as they happen. We do not realize the moments where the habits and behavior patterns are being trained within us. As we grow up in our lives, there are going to be many phrases we hear from our parents. There are many terms and value judgments that we hear throughout our lives that will shape our behavior. When we look at the language that we use around money, we can see how the financial system doesn't just control finance, but it controls meaning. Think of the phrases we use: responsible investment, a smart investment, reckless spending, risky investment, stable job, irresponsible, behind, ahead, stuck. These words are not neutral words. They carry moral weight in your life. If someone says to you that is irresponsible, they're not talking about maths. They're making a moral judgment. They're talking about responsibility. They're talking about worth. They're talking about belonging. And when you hear these words over time, you're not just managing money, you're managing the shame and guilt you feel around money. You're managing your identity when it comes to money. And that's how these systems move inside. So, how is obedience produced financially? How do financial systems create obedience in you and in society? Well, In the past, financial systems used external enforcement. They used punishment, exclusion, imprisonment, right? And there were these public consequences that would arise if you didn't follow the requisite behavior. But modern financial systems work internally. You fear financial instability, late payment penalties, tax penalties, loan rejection, falling behind your social financial status. So you self police. You don't need anybody watching over you. You're going to do it yourself. And now you don't take that risk. You don't ask that question. You don't explore that option. Not because you're told not to, but because it feels unsafe. Unsafe to question, unsafe to explore the option and be exposed. And that's not discipline, that is financial conditioning. Once this conditioning has set in, certain patterns emerge. People under earn, not because they lack skill, but because ambition feels dangerous. People overcomply, mistaking obedience for responsibility. We outsource our financial decisions not because we are incapable, but because delegating our responsibility to a financial authority feels safer than being judged for the decisions that we make around our finances. So, what ends up happening? What looks like being bad with money is basically your fear wearing a mask of rationality. So, here's the kicker: unless you name that fear, there is no spreadsheet, no financial advisor, no financial guru, no financial tool that can fix that fear. And this is where the real damage happens, when the psychological cost of compliance and obedience to a financial system that is not designed for you starts to take its toll in your life. Now you have this chronic anxiety about money. You have paralysis when it comes time to make decisions around your money. And the comparison never ends. And the shame never disappears, no matter how much money you make. Why? Because the system never taught you agency, it taught you compliance. So you keep asking, what should I do? What am I allowed to do? What's the right move? Instead of asking the real question, which game is best suited for you and the outcomes that you seek, given your own personal proclivities, your interests, your desires, your inner voice, that authentic voice within you. Regaining financial agency isn't about rejecting financial systems, it's about seeing them clearly. And here's a shift: separate compliance from strategy. Compliance is what you must do. Strategy is where your choice lives. And a system is a constraint, not a verdict. And when you understand the rules, you decide when to opt out, when to bend the rules, which rules to follow, and when not to follow those. And agency is not about being reckless. It's about being conscious of the rules, conscious of your constraints, conscious of the outcomes that you're seeking. I feel blessed that I grew up in a high control religion, a cult, in the Jehovah's Witness faith, because that upbringing and coming out of that upbringing has helped me to see systems operating in my life. I can see these systems everywhere now. I see them in religion. I see them in marriage. I see them in friendships and relationships and social circles. I see them around my finances. I see them in my businesses. I see them in my clients. And my journey is about understanding those systems and choosing the right systems for the games that I'm playing. So remember when we were talking about religious systems and modern systems, we were talking about how they train our reflexes, how they train us to think, how they train us to behave, to react to certain things. Now, as you build agency around your finances, you start to regain cognitive freedom, the ability to think, being able to pause and say, let me think. If you look at business leaders and people who are successful at a high level, a lot of times they're able to stop everything to allow them to think, to give them space to think and come up with solutions that make sense for them. Your ability to stop the compliance behavior that is trained in you and give yourself time to think is exactly the moment that you're regaining agency in your financial life. So Here's my question to you. When you think about your life, you think about your finances, and you think about all the decisions, the pivotal decisions that you've made in your finances, which decisions came from fear, shame, guilt, compliance with the financial system? What does that look like? Which decisions did you make because you were afraid to disappoint your parents? Which decisions did you make because you were afraid to fall behind your peers? Which decisions did you make because you were afraid of the judgment of being exposed, of the tax collector knocking on your door, the debt collectors coming in and taking everything? Which decisions did you make based on that? Versus which decisions did you truly choose in your life that you consciously made a decision to go for and to make a reality in your life? Understanding those two is going to be very important for your financial life. I hope you find value in that. I'll see you guys on the next one.